Distinguished guests, representatives from co-organizers and supporting organizations, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the 4th Innovation and Technology Forum, organized by Policy Research Center for Innovation and Technology. I am Helen, a current PolyU student and the MC today. For those joining us online, welcome to our Zoom broadcast of the forum. Hong Kong's entrepreneurial ecosystem has been growing rapidly in recent years. Our forum today aims at breaking barriers for Hong Kong startups and investment through insightful exchanges of ideas. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Miranda Lou, Executive Vice President of PolyU, for opening remarks. Dr. Lou, please.
Distinguished speakers, guests, representatives from co-organizers and supporting organizations, colleagues, alumni, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. A very warm welcome to the PReCIT Innovation and Technology Forum today with the theme of breaking barriers for startups and fostering the development of innovation and technology in Hong Kong. And while Hong Kong has long been established as an international financial center, it has also emerged in recent years as an attractive location for startups and innovation. Thanks to its strategic location, as well as Hong Kong's government's policies and measures for advancing innovation and technological development in Hong Kong and in the GBA. So to propel the growth of startups in Hong Kong, a supportive environment, facilitating policies and strong incentives are essential for attracting talents to commercialize their research and innovations. So for PolyU, we have been adopting the principle that all PolyU IPs of practical value should leave the campus to create societal impact. So in doing so, we believe creating a facilitating ambience for academic staff and students to commercialize the technologies and innovations is crucial. So I want to take this opportunity to share with you some examples, like in terms of supporting our academic staff to pursue entrepreneurship. The PolyU, I believe, is the first university that allowed our academic staff to undertake an executive role while assuming the academic duties on a part-time basis, in addition to the traditional no-pay leave arrangement 2 years ago. So recently, the university has also reviewed our benefit sharing mechanism. So I do believe that at the moment, PolyU is the first university that will offer the highest benefits in terms of a share of IP commercialization income to the inventors. Of course, on top of that, the university has been supporting our startups through different funding schemes, from ideation to proof of concept, and then to investing startups of potential value in partnership with co-investors. But all through all these endeavors, we do experience some challenges. So, of course, running a startup and making it successful is never easy. So I think the topic today, organized by our Policy Research Institute, about how to break the barriers for startups as well as in investing, I think it comes very timely. So without further ado, I would like to, first of all, thanks the speakers today for your insightful sharing. And I look forward to a very productive exchange with all the participants here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lou. As a token of appreciation, the Center has prepared souvenirs to our honorable speakers. And may I invite Professor Chris SHUM, Vice President, Research and Innovation, and Director of Policy Research Center for Innovation and Technology of PolyU, to present a token of gratitude. Professor CHOW, please. May I now invite our esteemed speakers on stage. They are Mr. Chris SHUM, Founder and Chief Financial Officer of Asiabots Limited. Mr. SHUM, please stay. And may I also invite Dr. Abraham LAM, founder and Chief Executive Officer of Mega Automation Limited. Dr. Lam, please also stay, and may I also invite Mr. Hugh CHOW, Executive Director of the ESG Consortium. Lastly, we have our speaker, Mr. Hendrick SIN, Founding and Managing Partner of China Prosperity Fund. Mr. SIN is currently overseas. PReCIT will present our appreciation to Mr. SIN when he's back in Hong Kong. And when Mr. SIN, please turn on your camera for a group photo with our other speakers. Yeah, should we please also invite Dr. Lou and Professor Eric Choi, Co-Director of PReCIT and Head of Department of Applied Social Sciences, to take a photo with our speakers. Everyone, please look at the camera. Everyone, please stay. We have one more photo with our representatives of supporting organization and co-organizer. May I invite Mr. Calvin Wong, Director of Knowledge Transfer and Entrepreneurship Office of PolyU, and Ms. Flora Young, Senior Manager, Entrepreneurship of Cyberport, please. Thank you, KTO and Cyberport, for supporting this forum. And everyone, please look at the photographer. Please look at the camera at the front. Hold the smile, take a few more pictures. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. We would like to take this opportunity to have an offstage photo with all guests and participants as well. So guests here with us in the Senate room, please look at the camera in the front. And all online guests and audiences, please turn on your camera. We would like to take a photo with you as well. Thumbs up. Thank you everyone for your support to PReCIT. And it is now time for the forum. The theme of today is breaking barriers for Hong Kong startups and investment. Please welcome our first speaker, Mr. Hendrick SIN, to share the opportunity for startups in GBA Online. Mr. SIN, please.
Thank you, Miranda, Chris, and MC Helen for having me today. Everyone can hear me clearly, I suppose, and the screen is showing. If not, let me know. Okay, so my presentation today have this title of "This is the best time for startup, and this is the best time for GBA opportunities." So I'm sharing with you today something that I have been doing for the last 14 years, and I'm still enjoying doing it. So as a startup entrepreneur, as an investor, and in Hong Kong, I help the government on the Cyberport side. So I have some colleagues here today, and I'm a board member as well as I look after the macro fund, so the investment for Cyberport. So I have a little bit of feeling actually from various perspectives. So talking about my own entrepreneurship. So I started my journey in 2009, and this is a very happy journey, I would say. I'm still working hard on it. So on the left-hand side is the starting point. So we have a small office in Futian, and the right-hand side is what we have now. We're still in Futian. So we have a focus on mobile games, and at that time it was still in its infant stage. So not many people in that industry, because it's still not the smartphone days. So if people recall, that was very early time in the gaming. And sorry, so did I share the, oh, okay. So everyone can see the PPT now. So so that was a very early time in the gaming. So I think we have captured some opportunities. So by kind of hard work and by a bit of luck, as I always said, for entrepreneurship, hard work and luck is the most crucial. So I think we has entered into the right industry, has a fast growing potential, and then I think with 3 years of hard work, we enter into the capital markets, something I have been kind of familiar with because prior to starting my own business, I spent 12 years in investment banking, helping different companies to do IPOs and M&As. So I know for my own company, when there's a chance, I should connect it with the capital markets. So we also connect at a very early time. So in 2012, we had the opportunity to launch our IPO in NASDAQ. So that was a very exciting moment for us, because we could have actually raised a lot of money at that time. Actually, we have raised $140 million at that time, and representing the first IPO from China gaming space. And I think we were, if not the first, I think one of the first unicorn from Hong Kong in China. So I think China tech space. So I think that is at that time, I think we have raised enough capital for us to do what we want to do. And in 2009, we came back to Hong Kong for Hong Kong relaunch of our IPO because of the geopolitical reasons. We picked Hong Kong to actually have our listing. Sorry, I'm not sure is the screen are showing all right. Okay, sorry, give me a second. Okay. So what we do, very briefly, we do IP games, and we created a strategy that is we combine Western IPs and global IPs, and we use Chinese production capabilities. So we combine together and create a good product, and then we sell globally. So for IPs, we means very renowned movies, comics, and TV drama, literature, etc. So we make it into mobile games. So it's something that we are proud of, and we have been doing for all these years. And I think we managed to become leaders in that space after a time. And where we are now, I think we are the top 500 Guangdong company, and then the top 100, I think startups of innovations in the space in Guangdong. So what I'm sharing with you is a journey that we have actually touched, we have actually participated firsthand. So we have, of course, in our entrepreneurship, we have overcome a lot of challenges and numerous, I think hard work and numerous, I think, ups and downs. So I think starting our business in, I think, GBA was the right decision. And I'm still thinking that without starting in Shenzhen, I think we would not have a very, I think, easy, I think, growth in our business all these years. About my second business, I think it's called China Prosperity Capital. So I would call it CPC Fund. So it's a business that I also started in Shenzhen in 2015. It is a second startup that I have. And this one, I think, has a lot of I think draw a lot of interest lately. We're also partners of PolyU, and we focus on a lot of investment on Hong Kong market. I mentioned that I think we started with digital entertainment. So my own business, CMGE, is in that area. So I think in the early part of my family fund, I invest a lot in digital entertainment because that has synergies with my company, and that was the easiest access of good deals because people just came to us and sent us business proposal on a periodic manner. So that was the early time that we create a fund that we want to invest in good companies to complement our sort of industry opportunities. So I think around us there are very good people that actually has entrepreneurship experience, and we want to invest with them. And that's why I set up this fund in 2015. We have a QFLP structure. That means we invest through US dollar and convert into renminbi and invest in renminbi. So that is a structure that we have. So we started with digital entertainment, and then we invest in everything, basically from Neo to 36KR and Blue D and DD. So we have invested in a lot of aspects of tech space. And in 2019, so time flies, after 4 or 5 years of investment experience, we were invited by the Shenzhen government to join hands. So we have Shenzhen government and Futian government as our Fund 2 investors. So with that, we have set up a fund that specifically invests in Hong Kong related technologies, and that have the sort of the ambition to go to GBA. So I think we are currently still the only one with Shenzhen municipal and also a district government investment that focus on Hong Kong startups that comes to GBA. So we focus also on sort of the strength of both cities, Shenzhen and Hong Kong, in areas like AI and big data and robotics. So we have invested in a lot of startups, even when the border was closed. So we invest in the last 2-3 years, maybe 1 or 2 companies each month, and in that pace. And a lot of times our companies invested with Hong Kong angle actually will be showcases in a lot of media. I think the government media in particular wants to see or wants to report some of our success in Shenzhen Hong Kong cooperations. And also we also have encouraged a lot of our portfolio companies to join competitions, because that can also train their communication skills with investors, and also they can compare where they are in industries. So we encourage a lot of our portfolio companies to enter into competitions in the state level and also in the provincial level. And a lot of them luckily got a lot of awards. And also we earned ourselves all these years, I think, some of the top 100 fund in China, as well as GBA fund top 30 or so. And I mentioned that we have the honor to work with PolyU, and that was our first cooperation with all universities in Hong Kong, and that was in 1.5 years ago. And I'm very happy we have signed it with Miranda at the presence of Tang Xiaozha. And actually, we know that our country actually has a strong expectation that Hong Kong can contribute more and more in this sort of a technology path. And our country wants to do more independence in this area, and they name Hong Kong as the technology and innovation hub, as you know, internationally. So I think that there's reason why there's such a focus. I think that partly because we have a lot of good universities, including PolyU, and that has a lot of very noticeable research projects, and that is able to become very successful products or services in the future. And I think in the past, what I've seen in Cyberport Science Park in Hong Kong generally, and as micro fund of Cyberport chairman, I have noticed personally that I think the translation of research has been not optimal. I think and reason because I think Hong Kong has a I think small population, and there's one key reason, and another reason is I think Hong Kong has little manufacturing facility these days, and a lot of the proof of concept cannot be done. And also I think for academia, from academia to entrepreneurship, this is also not a easy decision to do so. I think, but I think for China Prosperity Fund or CPC Fund or ourselves, we have been working with a lot of professors, PhD, all these years. I think we are able to share our entrepreneurship experience. So we're not bringing only capital, we are bringing experience. And we are, for example, I myself is a Hong Kong born Chinese. So how to actually do the startup, I think how to also get more support from the government from both cities. I think we have some experience, and we have some actually very good context on that. I think we are very central in our work to convert technology, and I think that in our experience, the GBA, not only they have a very huge market, I think 10 times the population of Hong Kong. I think there are a lot of special care. I say special care because I think we are Hong Kong entrepreneurs. I think if you go to Shenzhen, for example, there are a lot of subsidies. There are a lot of discount or free workspace. There are lots of I think accommodations or workspace as a discount for you. So it's different from what I had, I think, 13, 14 years ago. And at that time, we don't have any special care. We didn't have such liberty and luxury. I think this is a good time now. And also, I think Shenzhen has a lot of upstream and downstream partners that you can find, no matter what industry you are in. I think in Shenzhen, we know very well we cannot speak Cantonese because you have everybody from different parts of China that gather there, I think, to chase dreams. So that's why I think there are lots of opportunities to find partners, and if you work hard to find them. And also geographical location. For example, myself, I have been, so I live in Hong Kong Island. So I go to Shenzhen every day, except weekend, except when border closed. So so it's so convenient. It's just 1 hour away. And also, I think for people that try to stay in GBA for a longer time, they may not find a place any sort of too different from Hong Kong. So I think it's easy to adapt to the culture as well as to find a place very accessible. So I think that why it is the best time for startups and for entrepreneurship. I think it is a good time because the country very focused on, I think, gaining independence on technology. So you see a lot of GDP money from 2.1% to 2.5% are put into technology advancement. And so is Hong Kong. You know, from the blueprints for innovation technology released last year, a lot of capital are being deployed. So I think this is a good time because there are more infrastructure. There are more, I think, government investment into the space. I think in mainland as well as in Hong Kong. And I think, and also I think the ecosystem is being built. And for example, Hong Kong, I think Cyberport, Science Park, and S3, Hong Kong PC, they are all there together with I think all the good universities. I think these are good places that started the ideas, and there are good ideas out there, and there are more and more funds like ourselves. I think we are there to help selective companies. We are very selective, but I think in the past we have been able to find opportunities that we want to spend time with. We want to join hands with them on this entrepreneurship path, because we think that our relationship actually with startups actually starts after our investment. So actually, we spend, I would say, a lot of time post-investment spent with the portfolio companies. So we are like the first point of call on any problems, on any issues, and we are there for happy and bad times. So how I think a fund like ourselves look at, I think, startup teams, I think including from PolyU, I think that a lot of funds will look at a few factors. I think, first of all, industries. Industry is very important. Choose the right industry, and choose an industry that has very high growth potentials, so people can see that the industry has a very high ceiling, I would say. So people can really see a quantum leap in the next few years. I think team is very important. I think not just the CEO, a team that has complementary skills, CFO, CTO, and a marketing team, they can work very well with the CEO. And a business proposal, how when you have a good team, a good industry, how you can actually excel in that area. What is your game plan? And I think lastly, I think the capital is important. So I think you have to have enough capital to execute your plan. So I think that a lot of funds will look at these factors and do their sort of assessment. But I think that the ecosystem is there. There are more and more capitals in the market that look at Hong Kong startups, including PolyU's very great startups. So this is my sharing today. I would like to end with also saying that this is the best time with startup experience, and I think PolyU has a lot of support for you as well. I think PolyU is a great school, and a lot of great ideas are being generated, and CPC Fund, we are here actually to support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sin, for your insightful sharing. Next, may I invite Mr. Chris SHUM to share about how to secure early stage funding. Mr. SHUM, please.
Okay, thank you for the time again and invitation of me to share this. Actually, before I come, I thought here to be many PolyU students, but what I observed is I saw a lot of friends over here, and I think you're more experienced than me over this topic. But anyway, I would like to really recap what our company and me, what have been done in these years, and just share to you actually in the early stage, we say the investment, how we goes and what we find and what we encountered. So this is good for me because I'm PolyU alumni, and this is I'm really interested to share with you. So my topic over here is to secure your early stage funding. Okay, I've shared part of my journey. So actually in 2008, I start my first business. I have 3 businesses myself. So in the beginning, I taught myself. So in 2008, I start from nothing. I start my first business in Europe. I have my first company in Holland, in Germany, in Belgium. And then, what I do is I sell fashion accessories because people say, okay, to sell something to girls are more easy to earn money. Yeah, that's true, really. And at that time, we started the first B2B online store. That is something new. I remember, at that time, my company was the top 3 in Europe. Yeah, in terms of sales volume, something like that. It was doing very good at the time. Yeah, people, that's why I'm on the trend of internet. That is, we start from 2008. And during that time, I counted maximum, we have 11 offices around the world, in China, in Europe, in South Africa, in West Africa, in Brazil, in many places. We have many offices. We have our own online stores, and we have our warehouse and many places. We mostly source our product from Europe, from Asia, from China. I have factory also. So it was old time, my first company. And then the second company I had is an app company that I back to Hong Kong, and then I start my app company, also on the trend of internet. So at the time, everyone say, yeah, app, and then we did a lot app to Europe at that time. It was good because in Europe, the course is very expensive, and yeah, it is something that we find it is we have some advantages to build in Hong Kong and China. So that is my second company. And then I start my third company at 2007 or 2008. So I get my first funding at 2008. So actually, it is an artificial intelligence company. And this is what I'm working fully powered on that right now. So the third company I have is called Asiabots. So what we do is we use artificial intelligence to do customer services. In these few years, we focus more on automations, contact centers, and we got some recognitions, and that's why to share with you here. Okay, what we do is omnichannel communication platform with AI. So we want everything to be automated, self-serve. So we cover voice, mobile, and online, and also on-site service. We have it's digital human. We call AI ambassador that can serve you face-to-face. So, okay, back to the topic today. So secure your early stage funding. So this is starting something that I think is for beginner, but it's good to recap sometimes to talk about that. So before you get, I talk about mainly the early stage. So before, maybe some of you are interested to start your own business. So this in the coming 10 minutes, I'll talk about that. And I was in Singapore and also in Science Park. So I know many tech companies, and they always say, okay, they want to be unicorns, of course, but they haven't even got their first investment, how they can become unicorns. So everyone wants to get fund. But before that, you have to ask these questions to yourself. Why you want to get fund? What is that? How and where? So mainly we focus on these 4 areas. So why do we getting fund or get fund? You want to get rich? You want to prove your concept, prove something that you in your mind, and then you want to do something to make it come true. You want to reduce your risk. You want to get your fund to really to build something that long-term is sustainable, or you have other reasons. Is something fun? No, it's not fun at all. When you really approaching to investor, actually there are a lot of work to do. So other people, I heard some people say, oh, why you want to get fund? Because I do this business to help people. And of course, some people say, oh, I want to change the world. Just copy from Steve Jobs. So back to the basic. So what is and why you have to get fund? You have to take a look at that. Because mostly actually for startup, we get fund mostly in these 3 areas. First is we get it from operation. That's the best. And the second is we get it from financing. Financing, we have 2 streams. First one is from the shares. That is something that I think you're interested today about equity selling. And the other one is issuance of debts. Mainly it's these 3 areas. So don't tell me reason, but just ask yourself why you want to get fund, and then we go to what is it actually. So everyone, I think many people over here, they know that actually the funding journey. They say, oh, seed round, angel, Series A, B, C, something like that. Some people talk to me is, okay, it's just a naming. But anyway, people is really doing this. So when they say, okay, following this, I would say this format to do. So when people talking about Series A, Series B, they will know and understand, okay, at which stage you are. So basically it's like this, is in the beginning, we call it seed round or angel sometimes. That time, actually, you just have an idea, or POC or pilot or something. You are under the value of that. That is the round that why people call them angels. They're real angels in that point of view. So until you get a pivot, that is, you start to, you have something that able to sell, to earn, and then you get invested, and then you have, we call it Series A, B, C, something like that. And then before IPO, you get other funding to support you. And then the risk actually at the time for the investor is going down when you're going up. So why investors like to invest in the later stage? That's the reason. And very important is you have to make sure you understand actually what you are now doing right now. So I heard some people say, okay, when you go on to get fund, okay, just send your PowerPoint to everyone, as many as possible. That is something, I don't believe so, because you have to really look out to find the right investor. That's very important. And also you have to clear about your stage, where you are, and find the right person. For example, for investor, actually, some investors are really just very focused. They just invest in early stage. Some can be from early stage to middle to IPO, but they are very focused actually for most of the investors. And some investors actually they have their preference in the industry, and that is important too. And we are also looking for those investors that is we've looking for investors that can bring synergy to us. So very important to know what kind of industry those investors you're approaching. So of course you have to know, you go to the investor, you have to ask questions. For example, okay, your fund size, how many years you have established your funds, something like that. That's important for you to understand in what stage you're up to. And as I say, synergy is very important. And I believe that it's not always the best one who give you the most money, but synergies are more important than that. So what's the situation right now? So just give you some overview right now. So after COVID, actually, you can see during COVID, actually, it's not bad. The investment actually coming, still keep going. But after that, actually, the situation is not that good right now. So it's dropping. It's dropping anyway. But for the seed round, I can see it is almost the same. But mainly, in fact, is the later stage. So other than investors, there are a lot of funds from governments, from other backed institutions. For example, Science Park, Southport, and I observed that also there are a lot more accelerators and incubators that are formed by private companies. For example, AI Lab by Alibaba, and Eureka Rover from New World, for example. There are many more right now. For example, MTR has their own. And then, of course, I say private VC. And don't forget, in Hong Kong, there are a lot of rich people. There are also a lot of, you can approach them, the individual investors. And the fifth one, the last one is the corporate fund. And don't forget the free F. That is from your friends, families, and people who like your products. Okay, another things you have to understand before you approaching the VC, that is, okay, what they're looking for. Because when I talk to many people, they say, oh, they just have no idea. So actually you have to understand, because everyone actually, it is just like running a business. So for VC, actually behind them, we call LP, the limit partner. They get the fund from LP. And then what they do is to use the fund to invest in the portfolio. That is something what they're doing. So, the work for them is really hard. So when you see from figures, there are a lot of people approaching them, like 3,000, and then actually finally get fund is less than 1%. And why is so less? It is because the successful rate is still very low. For example, when, in the beginning, when for 1 of 5 startups, 20% fail, and it keeps going on. Actually, the more later stage, actually success rate increase. But in the beginning, for PreCIT or Series A, actually the failure rate is very high. So why the VC or fund They really serious or really conservative in the beginning. That's the reason. And also they will ask you actually sometimes, okay, what is the exit plan? So you have to bear in mind, you have to have some ideas, because how they earn is they exit. So as I say, you approach different funds. Some are in the beginning as funding you for early stage. Maybe they will get exit in the beginning, in the middle, but some will come with you, from the beginning to the last. So you have to understand, okay, what they're looking for, what something that in their mind. Hopefully that you can together to approaching the fund that you are really looking for. So mainly there are 3 ways for them to exit. For example, M&A, selling the business, and IPO, taking a company to public. But looking at the figures, actually most of them in the figures is IPO, but in reality, actually in numbers, more of them actually is exit by M&A. Bought by other corporates. So now you can see there are a lot of they have fun, they have money in the market. So what important, I think more important is how are you doing? This is more important. So I think there are 5 elements you have to really take care. The first is the market, and it is echo with Frederick. That is the ceiling. Looking for the business or doing the business that is with high ceiling. That is what investor is really looking. And for example, the question is, okay, what you're doing, is it the size is big enough? And that's why the reason say, okay, when your company is just, some people say, okay, just focusing on Hong Kong or very small areas, they are not interested. That's the reason. You have to, the investor only invest on those business that with very big, with very high potentials. So the question is, how big is the pizza? How big of that? So the second is, okay, the market's, what you focus is like that. And then how you earn from that. Your business model has to be something to tell them, okay, how effective you can make your money. So what is the tool to grab the piece of PReCIT? And then the third one is strategy. Strategy is also very important. That is because investors also looking for the momentums, to the speed. And they're also looking for if there are any, okay, you have a very good pizza, you have 2, but is it very easy for other people to share with you on the same pizza? So the patents or technology entry barrier, that is also something that they're looking for. And the team, everything I say is built on the team. So is it your guys, your team is really qualified for that? You have to prove that. And the fifth one, the last one, tractions. That is important because, okay, that is what you say. You have good stuff, you have market, you have people, but okay, any proof of that? So the investors are looking for tractions. So especially for the early stage companies, you really need to do something that to show them, okay, that is something that with good futures. Okay, so the last thing is, okay, where to find the funds. So I don't mention those from Cyberport or Science Park because you can check it out on the internet. What I say here is mostly actually, I mean the private fund. And very surprisingly, that is still a lot, most of them actually 85% are from people network. So take care of that. So it is important for you to, when you're looking for investor, actually from friends, from connections, from industry, that is a very important way for you to care. So this is a sharing of me, and thank you very much. And if you have any questions, and you can ask me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. SHUM, for your insight, and please be seated. Coming up next, may I invite Dr. Abraham LAM to share his view on how startups can scale up business. Let's give a round of applause for Dr. LAM, please.
Thank you, Reverend. So it's my honor today to share with you about my entrepreneurial journey. So I think sharing myself is the best thing that I can share with you because I've been 10 years of doing my startup. So we have just celebrated our 10th anniversary 2 weeks ago, right? Thank you. So I would like to start by my startup journey, and then because back to the topic today, I will share with you some of the barriers from the startup perspective, that some concerns and tips to some of the audience that you may want in your startup today. And at the same time, I know sometimes people always complain about policies, and then they want the policy to change. So I think it is also good that we can share some points of views from the startup perspective, right? So first of all, well, this photo 10 years ago, right? More than 10 years. So at that time, that was Professor Timothy Tong be the president. So it ignited my entrepreneurial dream that actually at that time, I was still doing my PhD study. I think it is around the second year of my PhD study. So at that time, because the government has enforced the legislation about energy audit. So in short, you need to tell the government, EMSD, so where does the energy consumption goes, right? So there's lots of digital meters, but there's no substantial data collection and a platform at that time. So that is how we ignite our entrepreneurial dream so that we apply to the PolyU micro fund, and luckily we got award. Okay, so this is the first photo. And then the second thing is we are also one of the incubatees of Cyberport. So I think I can share with you more about how we actually go through these kind of incubations, the fundings, and as well. And actually we have been enrolled and admit to the Qianhai, another incubators 6 years ago. So we also have so many experiences in the local Hong Kong and then the Shenzhen and the GBA cities experience that I can share with you later on. So we have the full C-Wheel office in Cyberport with the on-site support, and then with the PolyU support at the funding. So I can share with you all that if you have some startup ideas, innovative ideas or concepts, okay, without just doing the proof of concept, just apply for whatever resources you have. For example, here, PolyU, we have the micro fund, we have all sorts of supports. We have also got the tech launch pad, and then different kinds of funding are actually everywhere. 10 years ago, it is not the case. So you guys need to make use of the chances. And then the next, I think the screen is, yeah. Okay, so at that time, I was still doing my PhD study, right? And I actually want to apply the research values into the real world products. That is why I actually embarked on my entrepreneurial journey. So if you are one of the PolyU alumni, I think you should remember the school motto: to learn and to apply for the benefit of mankind. That is also what I actually want to show, that sometimes, to be honest, I'm also from the research field, right? Sometimes in the paper-wise, you can write a lot of theories and you can have a lot of problems which create by yourself. But to be honest, when you meet with your clients, meet with your markets, actually you will actually test how these kind of models and applications can be feasible to be adopted in the real world environment. So that is how I actually do my PhD study in at night after the daily business, and then I go back to the research carrel of the library and then do a lot of things. So finally, yeah, I got my PhD, right? Finally. And then at the same time, please make use of the resources. At the beginning of your startup, you will not have so much, funding, so you don't have so many resources, right? Just leverage on the resources you have. At that time, every time PolyU announced, through email, that we will have a trip to maybe Taipei or sometimes exhibition booth in the HK exhibition center, I will be the first one that to apply. Okay, no matter they allow us to go or not. I think on this kind of resources, you need to make use of, because at the beginning, you are nobody. No one knows you. No one knows your concepts. Even you have a very good team and a good formation, right? So the first thing is that nobody to somebody, okay? So you need to join and at least to have more media exposure. So throughout the 10 years, of course, thanks to the PolyU support and then the Cyberport and then all sorts of the community supports, we are always interviewed by different kind of media, so that we have the chance that I share with you, what is smart building about? And then what kind of services we can offer to you. From the beginning, we are just doing the energy management, but today we are now working on a larger scope on the building management system as well. So you need to be what we call the KOL today, right? And just like today, you need to doing your presentation and then be present on every kind of communities, right? Don't think it is a waste of time, because sometimes you need to talk with people, especially from Hong Kong. People always feel shy, or sometimes they think it is a secret of your business. But to be honest, from research point of view, we always love to share our point of view with the colleagues or the community people, even your competitors, to see whether this kind of business ideas are valid or not. So get into the community and become the KOL, right? At the same time, you need to participate. Sometimes I myself, my principle is that I will join at least one time on those, main competition in the community, right? So recently, I think there's a Hong Kong ICT Awards, and then all sorts of different kinds of value creations, and then different kinds of award, and even with the chance to PolyU to the exhibition of Invention Hong Kong event, we've got the gold medal as well, right? So all these kind of competitions and then application can let you have more exposure of your business. And just like I said, I've been involved and admitted to the another incubator in Shenzhen, because at that time when we work on the smart building, we have the software. Normally, we just adopt people's resources, right? And then we leverage on the resources. Yeah, it may be good, but from a long-term point of view, we have to have a term in Chinese, 自主研發. You have yourself, development skill set, so that your resources, leverage can be, scalable, and then you can create values that it cannot be limited by others. So at the time, there's a lot of upstream resources and hardware pool, and of course the talents as well in Shenzhen. Just 1 hour living, size a circle from me. In the old time, when I lived in Yunnan, I went to the cyberport. It spent me 3 hours a day. Now Chen just 1 hour. Okay, so from the 5 to 6 years, we've got the national high technology enterprise as well. So this kind of awards can make you feeling confident that you are able to pitch your clients, and the clients have the confidence to use your your products and services as well. So today, whenever there's some visitors from Hong Kong, even some weeks ago, I think you have heard about the chief executive with the LACO members, right? They visit the GBA cities. We are one of the team that we talk with our chief executive and showing what kind of supports, and then how we have the funding from PolyU, and then support, and then we went to Tianhai. So all these kind of participations can make you from somebody, and then maybe everybody can know you as well from the field, right? So today we have a full suite of the product and services, and then we developed our cloud building operating system. So from the energy management at the beginning, and then the facility management portal, and then all the BIM model, and then all the smart home recently we've done, and as well as the IoT Internet of Things, a comprehensive full suite of the product and services today. But I'm not going to share with you all the details today, because it is not my purpose, right? So the next thing is we have accumulated different kinds of clients, okay? So the next slide I will share will be the barriers to Hong Kong startups. So I think I will share more about the practical one instead of those theoretical concerns and tips. So for barriers, I will define what kind of internal factors and external factors. For those external factors, it is covered by today, right? So those external factors are less controllable. That means sometimes it is not because you want to do that thing and then you can achieve by yourself. No. So I list out 3 points: the government funding, the investors, and as well as the marketing demand. So the first one is about the government funding schemes. Actually, when you go through all the university portals and then the legislative maybe website, all these kind of websites, they have a comprehensive information on what kind of fundings they can offer to you. For example, you may have the research background, then you can select for some fundings that support research startup, maybe with your professors, maybe with your research colleagues as well. But at the same time, if you're just a maybe university, degree holders, right? You have just graduate maybe in this month, right? And then you can just apply for some kind of like micro fund, the proof of concept, and even the science park and then the Cyberport funding as well. Why not try to do that, right? But the concern is you need to bear in mind that this kind of application, it normally takes a longer time. So it is the game, right, to get the funding. But normally you need to remind yourself whether because you start your startup because you got the funding, or you yourself, you believe your product and services can help the community and for the benefit of mankind, right? So I think even when you enrolled into the incubation program, to be honest, I experienced that they always just give some time for you to review the progress and milestone, or in maybe documents, right? But to be honest, don't trust on this kind of just merely discussion and meetings. You yourself, you should go to the market and try your product and services, whether you can sell it or not. And then the market will tell you the truth. And at the same time, so don't focus on the KPI. And especially when you go through the G-based cities, there's lots of funds. But to be honest, sometimes I always heard about people complain about the funding, right? Just I mentioned, just because the policies change when they got into the cities. Okay, so I think you need to think about whether you trust your products or you trust because of the fundings to start your startup. Okay, the next thing is about the investors. I must point out that I don't actually listen this kind of points, but I want to share with you. Sometimes throughout the 10 years, we always approach different kinds of investors. But what I want to highlight is that, to be honest, sometimes the investors may not be real investors. You need to be, you need to have more information about the market. Sometimes, they may put themselves into an investor world so that they can have more information about your company. And then at the same time, they try to get your company as well. So I think everywhere you can find an investor. Of course, there's a lot of good investors, I must say, but it is hard for startup at this moment to do the due diligence to investor. From my startup point of view, okay? So always we listen about how investors do the due diligence to the startup, right? But there's no another way where we can know. So I think you need to check whether they have a very good track record. Maybe you can ask them what kind of startups you have invested, how many successful stories, and how you are going to help my startup. Okay, these kind of things. So be careful, not just because you get the funding so your startup can be successful, because sometimes like COVID comes, right? If the investor, they don't have good enough funding or substantial support, it may make your company totally, collapsed because you have already a large expenditure, but at the same time, you cannot sustain, okay? So for the market demand, I think you need to evaluate the real values brought to your potential clients, okay? All the time we say about MVP, minimum viable product. What is your minimum viable products and how you are going to have the MVP, right? And I heard a lot of things that people say, oh, POC, right? But to be honest, POC is really POC. It is not the real market. Even it is workable, or actually people like your ideas. But when you need to think about the long-term business, that will be how it can be scaled up, and then how it can be, a substantial one, so that the clients can subscribe your platform, and then you have the recurring money. So the revenue model is also the thing that you need to think about. People always have the good concepts, but they don't have actually the idea about the cost and revenue model. You need to project your cost and revenue. If it is a not profitable, company, then what is that? Then you need to think about that, right? And I've mentioned about how you leverage the resources from the talents pool and then the upstream resources from the market, especially I think in the G-based cities, you can have a look. So one advice on the policies makers is that when I went into Shanghai, right, I found that actually just like in Hong Kong, we have the Cyberport, Hong Kong Science Park, right? But in Shanghai, it is quite interesting that the government does not actually, manage the incubation program. Unlike Cyberport and Hong Kong Science Park, they are all actually with the government background, right? They actually allow the incubators with the VC background, okay, to operate the incubation program. So I think it is very good because that they are already in the community. They have a lot of resources and they have the networking as well. So they can just help you to connect the startups with the investors directly. And at the same time, they may become your investor as well. So I think it is a good form of incubation or acceleration program. Okay, and of course, we encourage the government, local government, to adopt and use more startup, technology. We have heard a lot of these kind of ideas, but I think the adoption rate is still very low, and then or just stay at the proof of concept, and then without the story behind after the POC concept. Okay, so at least the government also need to open more data so that more startups can make use of the environmental and public and even transport, all sorts of data, and then so that more startups can work on their own. And then at the same time, I think the funding scope, we always think there's a lot of fundings, but sometimes just the applicants is not eligible to apply. And because sometimes the funding categories, they are limited into specific scope. For example, when I was in the incubation program, they have a lot of funding on you want to have the legal support and then taxation and then also for the exhibition. But to be honest, at the beginning stage, it may not be the essential things that we want to expand. I mean, you want to spend on your money on that kind of things. So you are not able to do any reimbursement or support from that. Okay. And then the final thing is about the quality assessment scheme for investor. I really want to see these kind of things, that we can have a collaborative database so that we can have a track record on these kind of investors, so that the staff can, really they can make use of this kind of database and information so that they can talk with the real investor. And at the same time, it can help us, the local atmosphere in the investment, to be vigorous. Okay. So finally, this is a snapshot of what our experiences in GBA cities. First of all, keep an eye on the governmental policies. Like if President Xi Jinping always visit Qianhai, then I believe this place is much a good place to start, right? At the same time, you need to acquire the first info, especially in the GBA cities, not from the website. And like in Hong Kong, you can find all the information in website, no, but participate this kind of seminars, and then you will get to know the officials, officers, and even the governmental representative, and then they will add the WeChat, and then they can talk privately, right? So get the info not from the website, but through this kind of seminars. And to be honest, every GPA cities have their own funding supporting policies. Even in Shenzhen, you have the Nanshan Qu, Futian Qu, all sorts of Luohu Qu, different kind of Qu, they have their funding support scheme. So be careful when you start your business. You need to make sure what kind of funding support you want, right? Then you register your company, of course, with so many consultants in the market as well. So that is all what I want to share with you. Maybe we can share in the later stage, or you can email me, and then I'm free to share more experiences with you all. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Lam, for your enlightening personal sharing with a personal touch of your study journey in PolyU as well. Up next, we will have Mr. Hugh CHOW, and he will be giving suggestions on how to empower the future of entrepreneurship. Please all give us a round of applause for Mr. CHOW, please.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So after listening to Abraham, Chris, and Hendrick, I have really not much to add, because they have spoke about everything you need to know about startups and funding and investment. I actually prepare a number of slides, but to give you guys a secret, these ChatGPT created slides. So I'm gonna flip through them anyway. So let's see. All right, so I'm gonna leave it to you guys. I'm gonna just talk about my my personal experience. A lot of people here knows me as the ex-CEO at Astri, and not much else, because I actually left Hong Kong back in early 90s and been away for 30 years. I've done a few things, and I thought that those things that I've done, if there are entrepreneurs in the audience, could help you guys make some decisions about what you do, how you do it, how you deal with investors and stuff like that. And hopefully that adds to what some of the previous speakers has been talking about. So when I left Hong Kong back in the early 90s, I was very fortunate. I went to work for a unicorn. I started with the company when it was very small. When I left, it was a $6 billion US company. I thought that that's how every startup should look like, right? You start and a few years later, it's going to be, $6 billion, right? Very fortunate. I was young and reckless and go, you know what? I can do it too. So back in year 2000, I started my own company, Microchips. My first check I raised was $10 million US. And then you take a look at some companies that's doing really great. NVIDIA right now, I think they just passed $1 trillion US. But way back when I was building GPU, we were number one, NVIDIA was number two, right? They were doing GPU for the longest time. They tried to tablet chip, cell phone chip, game console chips, and none of that went anywhere until some 5 years ago, there's something called Bitcoin mining. And people figure that, a GPU can do all the arithmetic very, very quickly, right? So that took them to the next level. Then you have the AI, and now you have ChatGPT, and now it's $1 trillion. So even for a company that's very successful, for them to go to the next level, you always need to have the right opportunity. And what does it means to you? It means that any startups or any company for that matter, you stay alive. Whatever you do, you stay alive, because if you're not alive when the opportunity comes, you're not going to get it, right? So I think that a lot of times when I hear entrepreneur talk about, I have this great plan, great business case, and so on, I will succeed. And I tell you why. Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of things that is uncertain. You just don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. It's going to throw a curveball at you, and you're going to have to adopt and hope for the best, right? So that was the story before I became the S3 CEO. And let me tell you a couple of stories after. Right? So I left 3 years ago, and now I'm a partner at Radiant Venture. Now, Radiant Venture is one of the largest co-investor for with the Hong Kong government. So Hong Kong government has the ITVF, Innovation, Technology and Venture Fund, and there are a number of co-investors that are qualified. So what they do is that when we invest, the Hong Kong government will invest alongside. But the Hong Kong government, they do not manage the investment. So we ended up being the manager for not just the fund that we invest, but the portion that the government invests into the portfolio company. Now, what it does to a manager like me is that, because indirectly now I'm managing public money, so I have to go get an SFC license. And guess what? I actually now licensed for type 9. So it took me one quarantine to study and everything and pass. So what does it tell you again, if you're an entrepreneur? So anything that you want to do, let's say that, you know what, I've done a startup, I've done IPO, I want to be a venture capitalist. And guess what? You know what? VC usually don't need to get a license. But who knows, right? Suddenly now the government say, because you're managing my company, my money, you need to get a license. So for an engineer like me, I actually went to Hong Kong U engineering school. I have to go study, all the regulations. So, but you have to get ready for it, right? I mean, that's what's interesting in life and interesting in any startup you do. Now let's come to the latest thing that I'm doing right now. I just want to go to the end. Right, no, right, no, hey, never mind. So I'm gonna leave it to you guys again. The latest thing I'm doing right now is this thing here. I'm actually working with Christopher on the ESG Consortium. Now, what does ESG has to do with anything about entrepreneur and investment? It has everything to do with entrepreneur and investment. Hello. when you go raise fund, there are a lot of fund right now, they only invest in a company that has an ESG rating, okay? Not just the green finance and everything else. I'm talking about asset management, right? You talk to UBS, you talk to Goldman's, they have funds specifically. If your company does not have a ESG rating, they will not invest in you, and you cannot borrow money, right? So bank, Chris talked about equity and debt, right? Neither of them you're going to get financing, okay? So that means something to you. The second thing is that people go, well, you know, what does that have to do with my business then? I mean, money, so what? I have enough money. I don't need to raise. Guess what? The Hong Kong Exchange has been optioning Scope 3 data. So it means that if you're supplying to a LISCO, you need to have an ESG report, okay? But that's optional. It is coming mandatory very soon. So what that means is that if your company does not have a policy or framework or have an ESG rating, you might not be able to do business with any LISCO. So that affects your competitiveness. Number three, if you don't clean yourself up, I mean, for example, governance is a big thing, anti-bribery, safety, anti-harassment. If you have anything to do with money, you have to have AML policies. That goes to the robustness of your business. And the opposite is also true. If you have very strong policy, you're going to be a lot more profitable. So it has everything to do with your business. And that's the reason why you know, Chris and myself and a number of company members decided that we're an NGO, by the way. So startup doesn't really have to mean, doesn't have to be a unicorn. It can be anything. I built a fund before. I also have a school, not university, you know, 6 months old to 12-year-old. You just have to be passionate about what you do. If you like what you do, go do it. I mean, you got to live once and go give it a try. But the reason why I picked this NGO, because it's meaningful. It's not just meaningful to you entrepreneur for the three reasons I just talked about. It's meaningful for Hong Kong because Hong Kong has an opportunity to bridge China, mainland, our country, with the rest of the world. We've been doing it for the last 150 years, right? And we can continue to do that, not just as a capital market, but also as a standard, because we are a place of trustworthiness, right? So let me conclude this. I think Hong Kong is the best place for any of the entrepreneur, and for one reason. You have PolyU, and you have the PolyU KTEO, right? And you have Miranda, you have Christopher, and you have Eric. And they will give you all the support you need. And if you have any doubt, give them a call.
Thank you. We actually do want to have a little chat with you. Would you
Chat
mind?
with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with your experience at a Radiant Tech Venture as a partner, and also you had your own startup, and also we know you very well as a former CEO at Astri. Any tips actually for gaining or attracting VC funding?
You're not gonna let me see it?
No. I know you can do it. You have a lot of experience to share, but you know, try to, if you would like to, you know, summarize in doing on a few sentence, key tips for attracting VC ventures.
So it depends on whether you're early stage or late stage. I mean, it's going to take a little more than 2 minutes, right? So early stage, I've been a early stage entrepreneur myself. I invest in early stage as well. The investor will only look for one thing: is the founder, is whether the founder has the tenacity to go all the way. When the going gets tough, they get tougher, right? And they're coachable. They have to have their mind on their own, but they cannot be stubborn and don't listen to anything. So being in early stage founders, those are quality that investors will look for. Now, a later stage, I remember Chris was talking about the value of death, right? I mean, the value of death is before you have revenue. And that's the hardest part, period to get money. The reason is that any investment that goes in the valley of death, the risk doesn't get any higher as time goes on, right? But you burn a lot more money. Your team just gone from 5 people to 50 people, right? So investors is going to have to say, well, you know what? the risk hasn't gone down. I have to put a much bigger check. They hesitate. So that's the hardest part. And in fact, I think I often advise the Hong Kong government. I mean, that's the portion of the investment that the entrepreneur community needed the most. After that, later stage, when you have financial, when your financial means something, right? When your balance sheets actually mean something, you actually have a P&L, not just L, no P. Then institutional investor would come in easier, because the difference between institutional and early stage investors is that early stage investors like angels, right? They invest like hobbies. Oh, I pay $100 to watch a movie. Oh, I can pay $1,000 invest in a future unicorn. They actually are interested in the business. They're not as interested in the return. They almost say, you know what, it's an expense, right? I have fun and that's about it. But institutional investors, like me right now, I have to manage someone else's money. I have to manage the government's money, the LP's money. They have to have a reason to invest. And therefore, they have to see numbers. And the numbers has to make sense. So they turn around, they can explain it to the LP. So when you get to that stage, when you have P&Ls, you're dealing with different set of investors. There's also another set of investors called strategic investors, like your future customers, or maybe your current customers. Those investors that is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it validates your product and services because, oh, you have a customer who's actually investing in you, right? I mean, they're not stupid. I mean, they're not going to put money in the toilet. So it means that your product can sell. The problem is that every one of their competitors would walk away from you, right? So strategic investors is good and bad, in different sense. So I think as an entrepreneur, you have to know where you are. You have to know who you're talking with, and not just about your product and strategies and all these things. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. Thank you so much for breaking it down to different stages and tips for attracting investments. Obviously, different stages have different strategies. We do want to, kind of dig deeper in this area, and I'm sure audiences and our speakers will have a lot to share and discuss in this topic as well.
Tell me where to dig.
Later in the panel discussion session, we can.
Oh, sounds good.
Great. So please be seated on stage, and may I also welcome our speakers to join Mr. Chow on stage. Yes, please take it back with you. And may I also invite Professor Eric Choi, co-director of our center, to kickstart of the discussion panel session. And for our online audiences, you may send your questions to Zoom. And without further ado, I will pass the time to Professor Choi.
Thank you. First of all, once again, I would like you to join me to give them a big round of applause for their fantastic presentation. Right now, we are going to have about 10 minutes Q&A discussion, and I always give the priority of those people who are on site here. But before I pass it on to you, I have a question that I would like on behalf of the Policy Research Center for Innovation and Technology, because part of this center, the mission is really to give advice to the government how we can do better for especially for the youth startups. And that's the reason why I have got a question for all of you, for the three speakers, but keep it within a minute. This is the difficult task for you. Can you name one major barrier that Hong Kong startups are facing, and how the government policy can address this issue? So 2 parts. What is the major barrier of the Hong Kong startups, and how would you like to advise the government to address this? So any one of you would like to start with?
For me, I think from a startup point of view, that must be funding. Just like I covered in my presentation, I think there's a lot of fundings, right? But what kind of fundings that is useful for the startup, I think it is very important. And sometimes even for the application of funding and then the procedures and even types of the funding, like it is a reimbursement base or the grant. And then I think all sorts of funding actually may hinder the growth of a startup within a short period of time. So I think a effective funding would be what I want to say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I think another thing is I see a lot of good projects with very good technologies, but the problem is how to monetize, how to become the business That is another things that in Hong Kong, I think many people is encountering. So yeah, this is something difficult because for startup or for technologies world, actually the business model is really different. But there are many new ways actually in the world, in China. Yeah, you cannot use the traditional way to do it. As my first company. So yeah, this is something difficult to learn. You have to test, you have to try. So I think government can do more is to learn from other overseas, because for example, in Taiwan, in Korea, as you say, I think there's investors involved in the incubations. And yeah, really the business people, the insider joining, they really have the mind, okay, how to do the business, how to make your business grow. That is valuable experience. I think that is, yeah, for example, like a Science Park or Cyberport can employ more such individuals, corporates to join.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Eric, I might take more than a minute, but give me a minute and a half. I like to tell a story. I met an entrepreneur about a year and a half ago. And he was building some kind of software. And he knows that I know Christopher. And he asked me, can you introduce me to Christopher? Because I want to sell this software to like PolyU. I go, why PolyU? I want to start with PolyU and then I want to sell to all the university in Hong Kong. Then I go, then what, right? And then I spent half an hour telling him, I go, you add up all the university in Hong Kong and the students, and it's not as many students as even one university in the mainland, right? So I go, if you build anything, you have to sell to a market that is big enough, that's meaningful even for your time, not only for like anything else, right? For investing return. So going back to my case, when I built my chip company, and I didn't have one single customer in Canada. I have customers in 13 countries. In Japan, in Korea, Italy, US, and whatnot. So it's really about putting your product into the largest of the market. But now here's a but: the Hong Kong government, if you want to get any money from Hong Kong money, the first thing they're gonna ask you is that, are you gonna be, commercialized in Hong Kong? It's only 7 million people. Right? I mean, I think if I were going to give one advice to the Hong Kong government is that, if you really want to grow the entrepreneur community, let them sell to anywhere, right? I mean, even the Greater Bay Area, as Hendrick said it, is 10 times the population. You have to sell outside of Hong Kong. If you sell to Hong Kong, I'm not investing.
Okay, thank you. And I wonder whether people on the here would like to raise any question. Please. If you don't mind, introduce yourself briefly.
Okay, I graduated in 1981, electronic engineering. For more than 5 times. And this year, I think I'm lucky because I came back to the campus here and I'm working with some professor here. And I believe it's going to be successful because when I draw up the picture at 2 o'clock in the morning, I meet with the investor at noon. He immediately asked me to do a valuation of my business. Very interesting. So I give 6 words to all the startup here. 官財，用官即係用政府嘅錢 ，use government money。學研 ，learn and research。產商用 ，manufacture, commercialize it and use it by the user. Okay, so this is my experience come out from 5 times, 6 times startup since 1984. So today the question is breaking barriers for Hong Kong startup investment. My proposal is to set up a Hong Kong business development laboratory at the Hong Kong Polytechnic. Why? According to all the speakers here, end of the day, the investor only invests only when you have traction, revenue. Without revenue, sorry. The revenue must be big enough and also scalable globally, internationally, not just Hong Kong, as Hugh said. So think big, think from a customer point of view, think centric. Don't just try to research something because you are passionate about it. It's only when the user are passionate about it, you can sell. So starting from the end, think from user point of view. Before you launch a product, you already have order in the pipeline, then you do it. Our Professor Wei, now the president of Hong Kong Polytechnic University, used to be our executive president here. He said one thing: when people say that no hope, no wish, no point of success, do it. Once you do it, it's innovation. Okay, I brought forward many times. I share here. I have a high diploma in electronic engineering here. I studied my master of science in Warwick in engineering business management, but I become a salesman. And I am having a master degree at DBA. So very interesting. So anything you can break through it. Okay, just with a vision, with a way. Nothing venture, nothing gain. That's my final word. Thank you.
Okay, I think yours is a comment rather than a question, right? And but I wonder whether anyone would like to raise any question. If not, in fact, we have received one question online already. So this is the question for Abraham. So how do startups evaluate potential investors about their sustainability?
On the sustainability aspect, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think especially 10 years ago, when I mentioned about because of the government, they are talking about the energy audit, right? At the time, we don't have the term called property technology, and then nowadays people call PropTech, and nowadays people talk about ESG. So I think you need to riding on the wave of what you see in the global, warming, and then global policies. When you are riding on the policies, and then you have, a strong base that your products will be adopted in the market, then I think the investor will be happy. And then they will evaluate all the things with you. And sometimes I think what is a startup? Startup is they don't have a comprehensive or the market knowledge. That is because information itself is actually precious. So I think investors in the market, they want to have some products that they can, maybe they have some potential clients on their left hand, and then they are now selecting the startups from their right hands. So share with the investor, and then what kind of products you have. They may sometimes give you some insights, how you may sometimes you need to modify, not because of your products. It is about the business model, maybe the way that you sell to your market. So I think from the sustainability point of view, that is how you can fulfill the compliance in the community. Like in Hong Kong, we do a lot of projects because the clients are looking for the certification of green building, like LEED, BEAM Plus, and WELL if you are in the community. So I think it must be very practical that you need to have a sound requirement from the market and then a sound business model. Yeah.
Thank you. Chris.
I have a question to all of you. I think if the company is doing reasonably well, there will be a chance that they are going to get funding at different stages of their development. There are different investors. There are different terms and conditions. Some will give you a lot of money, but at the end, they want to get more shares from you. Some will impose a lot of very tough restrictions. Usually at the beginning, young people do not read all the fine print. They will be happy when they see so many zero, at the end of the dollar sign. But the condition might be really tough. At the end, it's like selling their soul and body. You cannot even leave. And also some have very tough exit clauses. So how should we look at all these and choose the best one that is suitable for this particular company? And another question is, many of these venture capitalists, they would like you to go listed. But the dilemma is the company is really doing great, getting income every year. Why you need to go listed and to lose all your freedom? So how are we going to balance a little bit, all this kind of thinking when we move on?
So I'm taking it as an examination from Professor CHOW. When you're dealing with a investor, you spoke about some very difficult terms and big dollar. It's no different than any deals you do. I mean, dealing with the customers, a customer going to write you a big or give you a big order, write you a big check. They have a lot of bonded warehouse, insurance on you, like Walmart, for example, you put anything in the Walmart shelf, it's actually your product. When you sell them, you pay them, put them on the shelf. And then when you sell them, you give them a portion of your income, but they never have to put your product on inventory. So risk is on you, right? So I think it's all about negotiations. So you have to, like any deal, you have to understand your risk tolerance, your return profile, and so on and so forth. There are courses in university that teaches you how to do risk, and it's the same deal, right? And second part of the question was, sorry.
I think you already answered, some of my questions. I don't remember what my last question is. Oh, my last question is, why do we need to go listed?
Listed, that's right. So again, like the story. At the moment, I'm actually advising for a couple company, and they are non-listed, but they run revenue in the billions of dollars, right? And they're happy with it. And I always tell people, I've gone through both, and even today I have a school will never get listed. You really have to ask yourself why you go listed. Listed is actually one way of getting financing. It's very simple, right? I mean, raising from a capital, venture capital, that's called private market. You can go to the public market, right? And get regulated by the regulators like SFC and get public money. So that's just it. But there are many other ways to get financing. Debt, mezzanine, I can raise bonds, I can put my house on mortgage to finance. I can even use my personal guarantee to ask for a professor to lend me $100. So I think you have to understand all the options that's in front, and pick the best one for your business. But for the investors, they want to exit, right? So they want liquidity. So if you have it locked into your equity that's not liquid, they don't like it. So that's why investors always want you to go listed or sell your company to a listed company so they can go exit, right? That's why it's very important for entrepreneur to line up the interest with the investor's interest, right? If your intention is to organically grow your business, never tap into the secondary market, then don't get investors who actually want you to go exit. Some investors want you to just invest and milk dividends. Pension funds, endowment funds, they're like that. But venture fund, they want exit.
Sorry. Yeah, actually, I can share with you is that I talk to the investor. Actually, I have tactic. So as you say, when we are just like a competition, when I talk to the investor, of course, investor will only, if just like a competition on the shares, then it's not a good case. So when I talk to my investor, actually, I really look for good partners. They are together to make this company grow. So we talk together like this. We put, okay, Asiabots like this. So we have a plan, okay, how it grows every stage. We talk like this. We are not at the opposite stage. We are not competitive for the company share. Instead, we want to make the project together to make it grow. So the position is very different. So I will understand, I will explain to it. So why this stage you cannot buy so many shares from us? Because in Hong Kong, actually many share, yeah, they invest, they want to buy as many as possible. Okay, they have money or something, or because your valuation is low in the beginning. But this is not healthy for the company. You have to explain to them. And then to make them very understand actually what is the plan. Okay, in each round, how many shares you want to sacrifice, how many money you want to get it, why you're doing that. So I'm doing like this, just like tactic to make friends together. So I like to, as I say, to find the corporate investor that also some people or investment that have synergies. So people, yeah, which is another story, different. So the second thing is, okay, yeah, people say, okay, only the bad projects, they need to be listed, otherwise they will die. So this is also a good thing. So if you talk, when I talk to the investor like that, yeah, really depends on the nature of your company, your business. If it is keeping growing and money earning, actually, you don't need to be listed. And the investor actually can be benefit from other ways. For example, as I told you, maybe we can share part of the shares to other bigger companies, or even the management can buy out, or to give it, for example, dividend or something to, to pay back to the investor. So yeah, I'm using like that, these strategies to talk my investor in this way. Yeah.
I think it is a very good question from Professor Chow. Like my company, I think it depends on the nature of the business, like Chris has mentioned. If you are looking for a hit and run startup, what I say hit and run, maybe you look for blockchain, you may look for some, AI technology, and then NFT, something like that. What you need to do, maybe you need to raise a lot of, funding, because you have lack of fund to, hire a pool of people and then doing a lot of, GPU, machine learning, all sorts of talents. Then you, of course, you need to acquire the funding from the investor. Then at that time, because you have nothing. So I think it is equally the same for the investor to take more shares from your company. But from my point of view, in the first 5 years, I always opened myself and my team as well to talk with investors. But finally, we didn't really, have a closer deal with the investor, because we think, because at the 5 years, we are also doing good, and then we grow with our organic revenue. And then we are able to support ourselves. And then that is why we also, set up our research company in Shanghai, because we think it is the profit, and we invest, in other terms, that it invests our company in Shenzhen to hire our research team. So nowadays, we are now supporting a lot of the land developers in Hong Kong. So for me, I think organic growth is also another way. So startups may not always need to look for investors to take your shares, but it is always good for you, even at your early stage, to talk with investors. Why? Because the investor has some hidden agenda. Maybe they have the first-hand information, then they're looking for resources. Like I said before, they have a bundle of clients or investor, on the left hand. Then when you talk with them, you will get to know more about what actually the market, is looking for. And then at the same time, I will give an advice. If you want to look for funding, is at least you need to work on your own with some good result first. Because at the beginning, people just have an idea, and then you look for investor. Unless you have a very, good track record, maybe you are a serious entrepreneur, which has a very successful track record. Otherwise, why would the investor believe you, right? And even if they believe you, then they will take a large portion of your shares. And at the same time, I think you will lose your check, because I think for each startup founders, they have their dream, they want to do something. So at least you trust yourself, and then you sell it to the market, and then you have some good results. Then you can talk with the investors. Sometimes maybe after 1 or 2 years, the capital value is much higher, maybe 10 times and 100 times. Just believe yourself. So I think that is my point of view.
Thank you. I see that there's one more hand over there.
Thank you. My name is Mokrit Kumangambeta. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the Center for Angling Research. Thank you, distinguished speakers, Hugh, Chris, Abraham. So Abraham, you mentioned that the location of the company registration matters. So could you elaborate that? And then question for other speakers. So for example, when you want to launch the product or company, you may think like what is the location is better, and then you do the market research, and then the availability of any, for example, competitors, and then maybe some investors' interest. But is there any maybe simulation game, for example, you can put all these variables and then play, for example, in a geographical way that you can it helps you to make your decision what country or what region is ideal for your product to launch it now, and then you can expand it for other regions, especially when it comes to maybe quantum technologies or technologies that are politically based, that every country they want to keep in their own country first, and maybe later to expand it to other countries. Thank you.
Maybe I start to answer your question first about the registration, right, of the company. So, for example, like our company, you know, when we register in Shanghai, the Shanghai has a lot of, you know, very positive, I would say, prospect in the policies. It's like if we are from research background, we set up our company and register there, then they will just give you a grant of, you know, I think a large sum of money at least. And then if you are willing to stay there and live there, and then they will have a full suite of the support for your living, and then for you to support hiring your laborers, and then the workers, and then even your programmers as well. So I think different kind of policies, they are different with each other in Shenzhen, right? Like Shanghai is what we call 特區中的特區, okay, a special economic region inside a special economic regions, right? So I think you can learn more about the policies in the different cities of the GBA. Of course, Hong Kong is one of the GBA cities, but I think you need to define different cities may have their functionalities in your business. So I think when you register this kind of company, you can consult all the like people with the startup and then the consultants. They will give you a good advice if you are tech-based and what kind of business to set up, and then if you are other kind of, you know, like I don't know, maybe industrial and then engineering field, and they have different kind of advice to you.
Maybe I answer the second question, geographically, where to start your business. So yeah, I think I can answer it because I have too many countries experience to start my business. So for me, it's like that you really need to look to yourself. Actually, okay, is it you really to understand your product? Is it any comparative advantages? For example, okay, I won't start my business in Europe anymore because I really see they have a lot of difficulties. So why I start from Hong Kong? Actually, it is another question is if you have the choice. Because, for example, I'm Hong Kong people, I have family, so I have to start here. I cannot go out. But once I have some establishment, actually, I'm looking for outside because I will see, okay, first is comparative advantage. Second is which country you can more easier to get the lowest hanging fruit. For example, I went to Singapore, I went to Taiwan, and later I will go to Korea. And I find that actually, especially in Asian countries, our technology in Hong Kong have advantages. I think at least 2 years or something like that. So it is good because for startup in the first few years, actually, what you do is to survive. So you really need funds. You really need, just like him, money, cash come in. So that is something you have to consider. And yeah, this is the things I would think about in the beginning.
Yeah, so I can see Eric's already have the concluding remarks out. So I'm going to give a very short 10 seconds. You just gave me, or you should have given people a startup idea, have a simulation game that tells entrepreneur where to start their business. That itself is a startup.
Okay, you're right. Thank you, Hugh. It's time that we have to draw a conclusion today. But before I conclude this session, I really want to say that 3 of the speakers are very brave in many ways. As you can see from the presentations, they are breaking a lot of barriers right from the very beginning. I learned a lot from that, from the seed funding till, you know, right now, they're very proud. Maybe they're still looking for some more opportunities and further investment. And they're very, very brave because I think the journey is not easy, definitely. But at the same time, I think they're very wise because today they share with us a lot of wisdom that are very unique to their own experience and huge, right now he's doing an NGO, but 3 of them share the similar goals, right? For the benefit of the mankind. I think they are not only here to make business, that's what I get, but also they want to do something for the benefits of the society, that's the reason why I would like you to join me again to give them another round of applause. And so before as the conclusion, I have to say that as an innovation and technology policy think tank of PolyU, our Policy Research Center for Innovation and Technology will organize more forums and events to facilitate the interdisciplinary discussion on Hong Kong's I&T development. So for more details, please visit our website and social media platforms and share to your friends too. And I hope you find today's forum informative and also inspiring. For me, I learned a lot. And thank you for coming today, and we look forward to more collaborations in the future. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for the enlightening talk and panel discussion. I hope everyone have enjoyed the session, and thank you once again for all of our speakers. And that's the end of today's PReCIT INT Forum. Thank you all for your support and see you soon.